Alright guys, welcome back to my Halloween marathon, and this right here will be day number 17 of 31. And for today I'm going to be talking about a game that came out on the Master System that not a lot of people heard about, but actually wasn't quite bad. And that game is Alien 3. Now this game actually came out on various consoles. We're talking about the Genesis, it came out on the Super Nintendo, came out I believe on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga. Now the one for the Master System actually had more levels than the Super Nintendo version, believe it or not. And it actually incorporated 2-player simultaneous play, which was actually pretty cool. Unfortunately, this game came out way past the Sega Master System's life cycle. Came out in 1993, which by that time the 16-bit era was well underway, and people were either playing the Genesis or the Super Nintendo at that point. However, this game is not bad. Now the controls are a little iffy, to say the least, especially when turning around. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of the gamepad for the Master System, it's a little tricky to change weaponry. You gotta actually crouch and then press the button to go ahead and cycle through your weapons. And the other button is used for jumping. Now the whole point of the game is basically to get from one level to the other by saving the necessary amount of prisoners and getting to the next area before time runs out. And obviously while you're traversing the area, you're gonna come upon a lot of different aliens and face huggers and such. Now unfortunately, the aliens and the enemies don't drop any weapons or ammos or anything like that. You will actually have to conserve your shots, as it does tend to run out pretty quickly. Also, you don't have a life bar that shows up on the screen. Instead, every time that you get hit, you're going to see on the upper part of the screen there how it changes from your ammo, and it's going to show you temporarily what your health is. So you gotta be fast and take a look at that, otherwise you're going to lose track of it, and before you know it, you're dead. The graphics are actually not that bad, but then again, the Master System always had pretty good graphics since it had a pretty good color palette compared to the regular Nintendo. The developers at that point already knew how to push the limits of the console. And if it wasn't bad enough that you have to save the prisoners and deal with the aliens, you also have to deal with a timer, and that one right there is kind of a pain for me. Now the coolest part I found about the game is when you actually start traversing the small little segments, like if you're crawling through the air ducts. So I thought this specific part of the game kind of captures that mood of the Alien movies perfectly. So this game's difficulty is actually quite right up there with other difficult games of the 8-bit era. Now it does give you 4 continues, but again, you're going to have a hard time getting through this game with just 4 continues, especially considering that you have very limited ammo, you got the timer to worry about, and on top of that, you got the aliens, obviously. This game's actually not that bad. It's not great, but it's actually not that bad. It's quite fast-paced. If you get past the mediocre sound effects and music and go with the somewhat fast-tempo gameplay and graphics, I think you're going to find yourself a quite enjoyable game. Again, I don't really highly recommend it, but I think it's one of those games that requires that you at least play it one time and see what you think of it. I think you're going to come out a little bit surprised, considering that there weren't a lot of Alien games back then to play. So right there is my super quick recap of Alien 3 for the Master System. Join me for day number 18 when I will be talking about an arcade game that wasn't very well known, but that spawned one of the greatest franchises to ever hit consoles. Stay tuned, guys. Until then, there's some crazy people out there.